So Norstead then takes up his position on the back row of the grid for the B final. I think it's a big job for him to get through to win this one. But Pat Doran, all those troubles he had in the heats, he's also in this B final. He's on the second row of the grid in his RS200, hoping to get through. Two more Ford RS200s on the front row of the grid, and Trevor Hopkins actually choosing the left-hand side of the circuit for his pole position, with Gary Baker alongside him. Sharing row 2 with Duran is Swede Bertil Persson in his big Audi, and then there are 3 Metro 6R4s of Mark Flaherty, Mike Turpin and another Swede, Bent Wickland, lining up behind them. So once again, awaiting this charge to Paddock Hill Bend. And there's a lot of horsepower, 600-700 horsepower turbocharged engine to wait to switch from red to green. Duran waits and makes a 4-ish start, jams it in another gear, and he's slowing again. More trouble for Duran up front, and there's and off to the left went Gary, big shunt. Back out into the middle of the circuit, that was Gary Baker sliding right out in the foreground there. That's Bent Wickland's Metro spinning round. He's not. There's another Metro. Mike Turpin gets going again, but it's Baker that had the big accident. And there, thankfully, we see Gary getting out of his very bent Ford RS200. The emergency services, as ever, on there in a flash. Red flags flying. This B final will be rerun when they've removed the cars from the circuit. Gary Baker there perfectly unharmed. Amazing after that huge impact that's thrown. But Pat Duran, meanwhile, has got another chance to get into the B final.
Prop shaft again.
Do you want to see him get back there? They've got one.
Have they?
Yeah.
Right, we'll push it in.
Having used his own spare drive shaft of that qualifying heat problem, the Duran team managed to borrow another drive shaft from fellow RS200 owner Trevor Hopkins. Hopkins, here it was, that led this charge to Paddock. In the background, you see the Metros. That's Turpin and Wickland getting well out of shape. Baker gets bounced off to the right and hits the Armco barriers with such a force that the car just comes spinning back into the middle of the track, and it's going to take more than a tow rope to remove Baker's car from the track. Meanwhile, the survivors line up for the restart of this B final. Hopkins now on his own on the front of the grid. Duran back on the grid, takes a steady start. This time he's managed to get away from the grid. Third, fourth, fifth gears, charging up to Paddock, overtaking Metros as the turbo boost comes in. But once again, it's Trevor Hopkins that clearly gets into the lead. Up to Paddock, Hopkins ahead of this battle for Duran, and that's Wickland trying to force his way through on the inside, and Duran clips the tyres, the bodywork flies up in the air. Pat doesn't there, we see Wickland's nose trying to get back up the inside, but Duran holds on to third place, and Wickland now back battling with Turpin for fourth. Up front though, Hopkins ahead of the big Audi. Duran working hard. If you watch his mouth, the balaclava blowing out with the exhalation of air, breathing deeply, the exhilaration of this 800 horsepower of car on mud, four-wheel drive, and an awful lot of hard work. Duran then in third, he's got to win this B final to get into the final to try and repeat his victory of last year. It's hard work, and you can see Doran working very hard indeed as they come up to finish one lap. Hopkins ahead of Persson in the big Audi, clips the tyres, and Persson trying very hard in that big car, and Duran trying his best to catch these two battling for the lead. Hopkins, a veteran of Rallycross, he's very neat, very tidy. Persson looking this way and that to try and find his way around this one, all flying off. We see that's Turpin going wide in the bottom of the screen, but up front it's all about Hopkins and Persson. Both these cars, of course, former supercars from the rally world that they're going to be banned next year, but at the moment it's a big battle between the Ford and the Audi. Persson trying which way and that to get, but he's sliding wide as they go onto the knife edge, and Hopkins gets away a little bit. Persson again slides one on the knife edge, and that's lost him a lot of ground there. He slid right out of the groove, and Hopkins has got a bit of breathing space behind him for the first time. And can Doran now catch Persson? Can Doran make the most of that mistake by Persson, who slid so wide? They're sliding, there's very little grip in that mud-spattered tarmac. Hopkins with quite a lead now. Doran with the bit between his teeth tries to catch Persson through these tight S's. Sliding left, sliding right, getting the power down. Up to Paddock Hill Bend, through the gearbox, before it's hard on the brakes again to slick it right. Into Paddock, onto the loose, opposite lock, down the hill, braking again, left and right through these tricky S's. So important as we come back onto the racetrack here to get good traction on the tarmac, not to get quite that sideways patch. and he's breathing deeper than ever as we go into Druitt. Hopkins is very easy out front. It's Doran doing all the work in third as Hopkins looks for a place on the back row of the grid for that final. The A final beckons Hopkins. Pearson battles behind in the big Audi to hold off Doran, but Trevor Hopkins is looking good out front. Transmission whining, cracking up and down through the gears. Opposite lock with one hand, changing gear, the other has to change gears so often he hardly ever gets two hands back on the steering wheel. There, opposite lock in one hand through the S's. The back bodywork that was knocked in that first corner instant seems to be coming loose. It's mainly fiberglass. It shouldn't cause too much of a problem, but it's very spectacular as the bodywork almost coming off. Pearson has caught back up with Hopkins at the front, taking Doran with him. Looks like Pearson's the fastest man on the track at the moment as Big Pat fights to keep his Ford on the track. More opposite lock, more deep breaths. The balaclava puffing in and out. Hopkins, though, still looks unfalteringly good up front as he goes back onto the knife edge to start his last lap, heading towards the A final. Pearson closes in. Doran now dropped away a little bit with that wild slide, and really can Pearson do anything about Hopkins in this last lap? Back out onto the tarmac. Slip sliding away. Pearson goes even wider than Hopkins. Doran takes the neat line, gets the power down. That's the way to do it. But he's got an awful lot to do. The body works all over the place. Tyre smoke, flames from the turbocharger. Pearson closing in through the S's, half a lap to try and get past Hopkins. Doran now, his hopes of repeating last year's victory look very slim indeed. He needs to win this B final to even have a chance in the A final, and he's getting wilder and wilder. The bodywork looks even worse. Once more through the S's, left and right. Big slide, 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 and he's losing time there, kicking the dirt up. Doran struggles, but Hopkins looking good in front. Pearson hasn't caught him. Trevor Hopkins is going to win this B final and go through to the back of the grid for the A final, and he does so now. Doran brings his battered car through to third. Pearson, a very good second up ahead of him, but Pat has worked very hard today. A lot of problems, drive shaft failures, but Big Pat, it's third place in the B final. For Trevor Hopkins, victory in the B final, and onto the back row of the grid for the A final, and a chance for more glory. Confirmation then of those results. Hopkins the winner from Bertil Pearson. Last year's winners Pat Duran only making third. Well, that was action aplenty. There's going to be a lot more in the A final, the grand final.